Viewer discretion is advised.
You are the Edmonton Oilers. You have two of the greatest talents in hockey in McDavid and Draisaitl. You are down in the series against Winnipeg 2-0 but you've surged to a 4-1 lead in a stadium without fans. How do you respond? Hold the lead and retake series momentum? Sacrifice live animals at the altar of Mike Smith? Or relive 2017? Do I hear the Honda Center calling your name? It was so good to blow a 3-goal lead in 3 minutes, they just had to do it again. There wasn't even a contrived controversy to cling onto this time to excuse the collapse. What a pity. Top-heavy team somehow has gotten even more top-heavy. I wonder when the fans will turn on McDavid. Too soon sure isn't for Ethan Bear. What is with Edmonton and throwing random depth guys under the bus?
Glory days have left bitter cold Edmonton, and though you won 5 cups, you really won your 6th in 1994. And of course, you traded the greatest player ever. Try not to do that again. You needed a finals run in 2006 to save your franchise, and for a heartbreaker, here is Steve Smith putting the puck in his own net. Daryl Katz is a Canadian billionaire that made most of his money in drugs, legal drugs and pharmacies, as he started out by buying the medicine shop and kept acquiring drugstores until he was filthy rich. He tried to buy the Oilers 4 times until 2008 when they approved his bid. Katz hired Peter Chiarelli in 2015 because that's the guy you need managing young talent.
The house that Spite built. The Rogers place was open in 2016, but not after Daryl Katz played hardball with the city of Edmonton and got the taxpayers to shoulder the majority of the construction costs. This for a team that was suffering from dwindling attendance before McJesus arrived. Not to let controversy overshadow the stadium's modern architecture and amenities, the building is beautiful and has given other Canadian cities jealous fits of rage.
Isn't getting any further behind the net, almost in some trouble. Mike Smith knocks it in. Puck stopped behind the net by Smith. Dangerous pass, shot, and Mike Smith saves his own bacon. Rebound. But first, are you experienced? These guys off the ice. Have you ever seen this? There he has. Wow. And Anderson throws it the length of the ice and scores. Backlund. Have you ever been saved by Mike Smith? Not necessarily stolen,
off the board, but not out. He's got to get back in. Hiram now. The ball raging good. Smith to stop down. Kachushkin scores. The fire. Arturi, Lekanen, and scored! And for the second straight year, he sent his team in overtime to the Stanley Cup final.
I guess missing Gretzky and Curry can put your team at a disadvantage as they didn't play in this game, but it's hard to believe that in the midst of their Stanley Cup dominance, the Oilers caught an 11-0 whipping like this. Ronnie Francis scored 4 goals, and a game misconduct for Kevin McClellan led to 4 power play goals in a 4-minute span. The Oilers would be alright though. If you think Daryl Katz is slimy for bilking the city into buying a giant metal quote bubble, meet Peter Pocklington, the man who merged the WHA into the NHL but then later would file for bankruptcy and be placed under house arrest, and is also in the midst of a securities fraud claim in Arizona. He also tried to sneak his dad's name on the Stanley Cup, which has since been erased off the pewter. Introduced last year and was at the time the creepiest mascot in the NHL, Hunter is a stray cat that has lived under a bridge for the past 15 years. Hunter is the team's first official mascot. Apparently, Chiarelli tried to trade him along with Ryan Spooner for an actual house cat right before he got fired. Would have been the best trade he had ever made.
guys remember those great teams the Edmonton Oilers had back in the 1980s? Remember how they dominated the league? Remember how they set the standard for all other teams to be measured up to? You are probably tired of this question, as Edmonton will cease to shut the fuck up about it. It's the only thing they can rely on, unlike the Oilers of today. They have once again disappointed their fans and taken a gigantic defecation on their hopes and dreams. The team is literally Connor McDavid trying to throw passes at scrubs like Drake fucking Kajula and Anton Slepyshev, hoping to God they use their stone hands for the benefit of humanity. It's back to the laughingstock of this past decade. Before last year, the Oilers were one of the golden lolcows of sports. This team was the boys' club before the boys' club was even considered to be a popular entity. The Oilers themselves were always known for foolish knee-jerk decision-making that ended up biting them in the ass for the long term. Harken back to the days when they chucked a shitload of money at Thomas Vanek and Dustin Penner, bask in the awful contracts of Sheldon Surrey and the Bullen Wall, serenade yourself with the horrific two-headed monster of Craig McTavish and Kevin Lowe, a group of men who probably still live in a time where Ronald Reagan is president. The team and its performance were always second to the glories of the 80s. They were so inept that they forced the league to change its rules on the draft lottery. The Oilers transformed into the hockey equivalent of the Browns. If you were a player or prospect, you went here to die. If it wasn't the clowns in the front office that killed you, it was smug-fuck Dallas Aikens and his legendary Corsi Swarm. The players were mere meat shields for the machine gun fire of the NHL. Until last season, the Oilers finally managed to be good for once in their goddamn lives. They lucked out in the draft lottery yet again with a generational talent in Connor McDavid. Guys like Leon Draisaitl, Cam Talbot, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins helped to carry this team to their first playoff series win in over 10 years. Then everything was cut down mercilessly by means of blowing a 3-goal lead with less than 3 minutes left in regulation. And then topped it by preventing us from laughing at the Ducks by losing to them in a Game 7. It's not a big deal, you say. The future is brighter than ever. Look at all of the boasting from their fan base and media. This is going to be the year. They're going to win the cup. They will finally take their place as the next great dynasty in the NHL. This is why you don't count your eggs before they're hatched, kids. The Edmonton Oilers, how do I put this, are as terrible as ever. The team is literally Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl wasting away underneath a heaping pile of rancid dung. There is literally nothing here. Zilch. Zip. Nada. People were predicting this would win the cup? This looks like a team that couldn't tie its skate laces without adult supervision. Just look at that special teams play. That power play is fucking atrocious. Turns out you need more than 3 great players to run one. Also, a word of advice, kids, don't take a penalty on home ice. You always shit the bed on the penalty kill. Like giving up a goal on almost 1 out of 2 chances. Although on the road you are PK God, so I don't fucking know anymore. I wouldn't expect anything less from one of the greatest chokers in NHL history as your head coach. It's okay, you say. They'll just have Cam Talbot turn into God mode again and stop all of the 5,000 leaks on the defense. Yeah, turns out that running him into the ground last season and having no backup option isn't a viable long-term plan. The dude looks as overcooked as a goddamn hockey puck this season. Even then, the hockey puck may be less burnt than Talbot. The poor bastard can't deal with all of the pylons in front of him, plus the terrible team depth, plus whatever the fuck else. But there is a mastermind behind this madness, a true Jackson Pollock of his time. Peter Chiarelli, the glorious GM that slings all sorts of shit onto an ice canvas and hopes he creates the Sistine Chapel. Remember when we all thought this guy was a solid GM when he was in Boston? Seems more like a hot take than anything. Maybe we should have seen it when he banished Tyler Seguin to Dallas for Louis Eriksson and some depth pieces. Maybe it should have been when he completely fucked up the Bruins salary cap. Edmonton was fooled enough by the cup he won there. He has rewarded them with one of the most incompetent displays of man management and cap flexibility in the modern era. Chiarelli is a man who has worn the dunce hat for so long that it's been superglued to his head. It's been a common theme for him in Edmonton. Peter Chiarelli's kryptonite seems to be an odd choice. The New York Islanders. When it comes to Long Island, they cuck the shit out of him on the trade market. It started in Boston when Peter traded them Johnny Boychuk to gain salary relief. Once he moved to Edmonton, it escalated. Mr. Chiarelli, the Islanders are dangling this nice shiny Griffin Reinhart in front of you. This man is a future piece to your defensive wall. It will only cost you a first and second round pick worth far less than his perceived upside. He's going to develop so nicely in your system that he loses all trade value and is selected by Vegas in the expansion draft. and he still can't make their main roster. The price for this blunder, it was merely Matt Barzal, nothing special. But wait, my friends, there's more. With the second-round pick they got from Edmonton, the Islanders traded up and drafted Anthony Beauvillier. Talk about robbing Peter to pay Paul. The Islanders once again went to the Chiarelli well when the Oilers needed to shed perennial underachiever Jordan Eberle's salary. Long Island has a home for him, all for the cost relief of fellow underachiever Ryan Strome. Strome also underachieves in Edmonton. Eberle does not. Peter Chiarelli has all but hand-delivered the Islanders half of their top six and one of their key defenders. In simpler terms, this man is the only reason why Garth Snow still has a job. That's not to discount any other bits of Chiarelli's wizardry. For his next trick, he's going to take a first-line gunner in Taylor Hall and transform him into a second-pairing defenseman in Adam Larson. Taylor has proven all of the people laughing at the trade when it was made right. He's a stud on an emerging Devils team. But Larson will develop into a top-pairing D-man, you say. The Oilers will even the production out. That's where you're wrong, kiddo. Speaking of defensemen, let's take this ugly, atrophying Justin Schultz and throw him right into the trash. My God, everyone, he's growing wings and has turned into a beautiful swan with real development. Look, a few more players to come out of our gutter to thrive on NHL teams. This is not an Oilers issue, they're just late bloomers. But it's about what they did with the cap room, you argue. Well, let's take a look at what he did. With the savings he conjured from shedding Jordan Eberle, the Oilers re-signed legendary parking cone Chris Russell to a 4-year contract at a $4 million cap hit. This is also to add to a massive 5-year contract at a $5.5 million cap hit for an Andre Shakira that suffered a torn ACL and looks like shit this year. You may stop chuckling, I'm not finished. For the savings on Taylor Hall, the Oilers won the Milan Lucic sweepstakes. And they won it alright. To the tune of a 7-year contract with $6 million per year. Better hope Peter's old boy Lucic doesn't regress anytime soon. It's not a big deal though, they can chuck just under $2 million precious dollars per year at Zach Kassian. For 3 years. That's not getting into the main guys. Connor McDavid is due for his first big boy contract. $12.5 million per year. God damn! Well, it's a steep bill, but he's one of the best players in the game. He needs to be paid. Besides, they still need to pay Draisaitl. Oh my God, what the fuck is that? An 8-year contract at $8.5 million per year for 1 year of first-line production? Do you realize what you've done, Peter? You've all but broken the fucking league. Most players in his status were getting about $2 million per year less. What the fuck is wrong with you, man? This is the kind of shit that leads to a lockout. It leads us all to the current situation. Edmonton, like Boston before them, is on a high-speed train roaring towards the explosives factory known as Cap-L. Conductor Chiarelli keeps throwing coal into the fire with contracts like Lucic and Russell, plus McDavid's massive contract comes into effect next year. There's also the little doozy of guys like Darnell Nurse and Matt Benning looking for significant pay raises. McDavid's wingman Pat Maroon is a free agent and will also be getting a raise come July. Adding in Draisaitl and others, the Oilers are going to be looking at an embarrassing situation soon. Have fun trading Nugent Hopkins or Oscar Klefbom for a third-round pick over the summer. And the year after that, trading Jesse Puljujarvi to entice a team to bite on one of those awful contracts. The utter lack of depth throughout the lineup will be made worse as a result. It's been proven repeatedly that the Oilers can't develop the majority of their players, and they get the added bonus of a probable coaching change. I can't wait for the uninspired retread they are going to bring in to yell about the glories of 2000-era hockey. This was supposed to be the year you had to do something, and all you've done is try to band-aid with old-ass Mike Camilleri and some waiver claims. What a great patch-up, Peter. The fans are once again miserable. They need their drug of choice, the past. The Oilers are exactly like the Islanders, Bears, and Marty McFly before them. To have any sort of relevance, they need to go back to 1985. Yes, Edmonton, we all know about that dynasty you guys had over 30 years ago. From how you talk about it, you'd think we were in the middle of one right now. The only winning this team has done over the past decade is in the goddamn draft lottery. I personally think every press conference ends up the same way. Yes, Mr. Journalist, the team is really terrible. But do you remember the 80s? It will help to avoid the horrific realities that are due to it in the future. You sure as shit aren't going to be getting any help from Daryl Cates. He's more interested in being buddy-buddy with the old Oilers than creating a new generation of legends. It's the reason why Kevin Lowe and Craig McTavish are still being kept around in his closet. It's why he brought in the goddamn Great One as an executive. Because his tenure in Arizona proved that he is well suited for such a task. He, too, is living in the glory years of the 80s. I can almost see him throwing on some Van Halen while flaunting a mullet and the power glove. I honestly think that may have been his pitch while he was begging for a government handout for his shrine to the old era. Or maybe that was before, when he tried to throw money around and bribe a political party. Perhaps it was when he went back to the well again and asked for even more public money to build the arena. Maybe it was a little later when he openly threatened to move the team to Seattle. Either way, he probably brought out a cardboard cutout of Mark Messier and the city all salivated at its bendable glory. You guys got that personalized shrine to the old times after all. Unfortunately, the Oilers don't have a good team currently playing in it. With the fierce flames of Cap Hill approaching, the team is going to be nothing more than Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and some random dudes from the rec center. To Edmonton's misfortune, this is not basketball. Chiarelli will divide the team by 0 again and fuck everything up like he did in Boston. Oilers, maybe you guys can throw up a banner celebrating your preseason championship in 2017. It would give you both something that you could reminisce about and something relevant in the common era. With how you guys like to live in the past, I think it's a good idea. You do realize that was tongue-in-cheek, right? You're still circle-jerking yourselves off of an internet poll? Whole celebration and everything too? The boys club is as alive as ever.